I'm Catherine Bennett, 42, and I've spent years perfecting family parties. Last summer, I poured my heart into my sister's birthday dinner with 30 guests at our suburban Minneapolis home. I planned every detail: roasted chicken for the crowd, a gluten-free salad for my cousin, a sugar-free cake for my uncle. I was up at 5 a.m. chopping, cooking, decorating, making sure everything was flawless. My husband and son helped set the table, and by evening the house was alive with laughter and clinking glasses. Everyone praised the food, or at least, that's what I thought. As I cleared the plates, my parents stood up, their faces stern. By the way, my mom said we took a vote. From now on, you're not allowed to cook anymore. You're too controlling. My sister smirked, adding, "And honestly, no one even likes your food." The room went silent. 30 pairs of eyes landed on me, waiting for my reaction. My heart sank, but I forced a smile. "Thanks for being honest," I said, my voice steady. I turned back to the dishes, hands trembling, their words echoing in my head. A month later, they called non-stop, complaining that the parties without me had turned chaotic, and guests were starting to get upset. I simply replied coldly, "Ask the people who voted that day. Would you forgive them or walk away forever? Tell me in the comments. I've always been the one who holds things together." For my sister's birthday last summer, I took on the challenge of throwing a dinner for 30 people at our house in suburban Minneapolis. It wasn't just a party, it was a mission to make everyone feel special. 3 weeks out, I sat with my husband Gregory at the kitchen table, scribbling notes. We emailed cousins, neighbors, and friends to confirm who was coming. My cousin Diane texted about her gluten-free diet, and my uncle called insisting on a sugar-free cake. I nodded, jotting it down. I'd done this before, and I knew how to keep everyone happy. A week later, I dove into planning. I spent hours researching recipes, flipping through cookbooks and websites. I settled on roasted chicken with rosemary, a gluten-free kale salad with lemon vinaigrette garlic mashed potatoes, and a sugar-free chocolate cake. Every dish had to be perfect, a reflection of the care I put into family. I called Diane to double-check her preferences. She was thrilled about the salad. My uncle grumbled about no boring desserts, so I tested 3 cake recipes to get it right. I wanted every bite to feel like home, like love on a plate. The day before, I hit the grocery store, pushing 3 carts through crowded aisles. I grabbed 20 pounds of chicken, fresh kale, specialty flours, and herbs. Back home, I chopped vegetables, marinated meat, and mixed batter until midnight. My hands were raw from scrubbing pans. Gregory hauled out folding tables for the backyard, joking, "You're running a restaurant here." My son Nathan dragged chairs from the garage and hung fairy lights across the patio. "Looks awesome, Mom," he said, giving me a fist bump. Their help kept me grounded, but I was still the engine driving this. At 5 a.m. on the party day, I was back in the kitchen, stirring saucepans, checking ovens, and whisking dressing. My hands cramped from piping frosting onto the cake. I barely ate, too focused on timing everything. By noon, I set out tablecloths, arranged sunflower centerpieces, and tested the playlist classic rock for the older crowd, pop for the kids. I checked the chicken every 20 minutes, paranoid about overcooking. Gregory gave me a quick hug, saying, "You're killing it, Kathy." Nathan grinned, folding napkins. I smiled back, but my eyes burned from lack of sleep. I was running on adrenaline and coffee. When guests arrived, the backyard came alive. Neighbors complimented the setup, saying, "Kathy, you've outdone yourself." Cousins grabbed seconds of chicken, raving about the rosemary flavor. Diane cornered me, holding her plate. "This salad is unreal," she said, her smile wide. My uncle sliced into his cake, nodding. "Not bad, Kathy. Not bad." Friends toasted to my sister, their glasses clinking under the lights. The energy was electric: laughter, stories, music. I moved between tables, refilling drinks, swapping empty platters for fresh ones. A neighbor, Tom, called me a genius for pulling it off. I nodded, but my legs felt like lead. As the night wore on, I hit a wall. My feet ached, My back screamed, and I hadn't sat down once. Gregory noticed, whispering, "Take a break." I shook my head, grabbing a stack of dirty plates. Nobody else stepped up. Not Diane, not my uncle, not even my sister. They kept chatting, laughing, eating. The praise, "perfect, amazing," rang in my ears, but it felt hollow. I'd been up since dawn, pouring every ounce of energy into this. Nathan caught my eye, stacking cups quietly, but even his help couldn't shake the feeling. I was exhausted, and deep down I wondered if anyone saw the cost. I'd given everything to make this night shine, but the weight of their indifference settled in my chest. Did they even notice what it took? I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty plates. The birthday party for my sister was winding down, and the backyard buzzed with lingering guests. I'd spent weeks planning cooking and serving 30 people, but as I stacked dishes, a heavy silence settled over me. My parents, Robert and Patricia, lingered near the counter, their faces tight. My sister approached, holding a glass of wine, her smile sharp. Nobody had thanked me properly, and the weight of that hit hard. Not even my brother Mark had said a word to acknowledge my effort. As I wiped down a platter, my mom spoke up. Her voice clipped. "Kathy, you need to stop acting like you run everything." I froze, sponge in hand. My dad nodded, folding his arms. "You're too controlling with these dinners. We've decided you're done cooking for family." My sister smirked, stepping closer. "Yeah, and let's be real. Your food's so bland. Nobody likes it." Her words sliced through me. The kitchen went quiet, a few guests glancing over from the doorway. "Diane." My cousin fidgeted with her napkin, avoiding my eyes. Mark, usually quick to lighten the mood, stared at the floor, his hands in his pockets. "Nathan." My son tensed beside me, his jaw clenched. Gregory, my husband, started to speak, but I shot him a look, urging him to stay silent. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me falter. I forced a nod, gripping the sponge tighter. Noted I said, my voice steady. I turned back to the dishes, my heart pounding. The guests shuffled out, murmuring goodbyes, but their earlier praise, Diane's unreal salad, the neighbor's genius comment, felt hollow now. Mark lingered, adjusting his jacket, but said nothing. I wanted him to speak up, to call out the unfairness, but he didn't. Nathan whispered, "They're out of line, Mom." Gregory squeezed my shoulder, his eyes fierce, but I shook my head. I needed to process this alone. As the last guests left, I carried a stack of plates to the living room to clear the coffee table. That's when I overheard my sister on her phone, her voice low but smug. "Just closed a deal, $10,000, she said, pacing near the couch. "Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary is going to be huge. I'm booking a fancy restaurant downtown. No more of Kathy's boring dinners dragging us down." My breath caught. She wasn't just criticizing me, she was planning to take over, to erase my role entirely. $10,000, a high-end venue, all to outshine me, to prove she could do better. I stood behind the doorway, clutching the plates, my pulse racing. Her words burned, each one a jab at everything I'd built for this family. The hurt ran deeper than I could name. I'd spent years orchestrating birthdays, holidays, reunions, making memories they all cherished. I thought they saw me as the heart of those moments, but I was wrong. They saw me as a servant, someone to push aside when it suited them. Mark's silence stung most. He'd always been my partner in crime, the one who'd joke about my over-the-top menus but cheer me on. Now he let them tear me down without a word. Diane's compliments, the guests' toasts, all of it felt like a lie. Nathan and Gregory were my only anchors, their quiet support keeping me from unraveling. I finished cleaning past midnight, the house dark except for the kitchen light. Gregory offered to help, but I waved him off, needing the rhythm of scrubbing to dull the pain. Nathan stayed close, stacking glasses, his eyes worried. "You don't deserve this," he said softly. I managed a small smile, but inside I was reeling. My phone lit up with texts, Mom asking about a recipe, Dad commenting on the weather, my sister sending a casual great party note. As if they hadn't just humiliated me. I stared at the messages, my fingers hovering. I wanted to fire back, to demand why they thought I deserved this. But I didn't. Instead, I muted the family group chat. No more replies to Mom's requests, Dad's updates, or my sister's fake pleasantries. Mark texted the next day saying, "We need to talk," but I let it sit unanswered. I was done being their doormat. I turned my focus to my own life work, Nathan's soccer practices, quiet evenings with Gregory. The group chat went quiet without my responses, and for the first time I felt a flicker of freedom. They could plan their fancy anniversary without me. I was out. A month later, my parents called out of the blue. I was folding laundry in the living room. Nathan sprawled on the couch with his homework when my phone lit up with Robert's name. I hesitated, my thumb hovering. I hadn't spoken to them since my sister's birthday, when they'd called me controlling and said my food was bland. But curiosity won. I answered, putting the phone on speaker. Patricia's voice came first, overly cheerful. "Kathy, we need your help with something special." My stomach tightened. I knew that tone. It meant they wanted something big. Robert jumped in, explaining their 40th anniversary was coming up. "We want a family dinner like the ones you do," he said. "You know, warm, cozy, everyone together." I almost laughed. Warm and cozy. After they'd humiliated me in front of 30 people, I leaned against the counter, folding a towel, waiting for the catch. Patricia's voice softened. "Susan was supposed to handle it, but she's in a tough spot." They admitted my sister had fallen for a scam, an online investment deal gone wrong. She'd lost everything, $10,000, and was now $5,000 in debt. She refused to help with their anniversary, claiming she was too stressed to plan anything. I gripped the towel, my knuckles white. Susan, who'd bragged about her big money and fancy restaurant plans, was broke. The same Susan who'd mocked my cooking and sworn to outdo me. I should have felt sorry for her, but I didn't. "So why me?" I asked, my voice flat. Robert cleared his throat. "Your dinners bring the family together. Nobody does it like you." The irony hit hard. They'd spent years taking me for granted, and now they needed my magic to save face. I cut them off. "You said I was too controlling. Susan said my food was bland. Why not ask her to cater your fancy restaurant party?" Silence hung on the line. Patricia stammered. "We didn't mean it like that, Kathy." But I wasn't buying it. Nathan looked up from his homework, his eyes sharp, nodding like he approved. Gregory, washing dishes nearby, gave me a small smile. I took a breath and said, "I'm done being your event planner. Find someone else." Robert tried to protest, saying it was just one dinner, but I hung up my hands, shaking. For the first time, saying no felt right. That weekend, I decided to reclaim my energy. Instead of stressing over family drama, I planned a small gathering at our house, just Gregory, Nathan, and a few close friends. No cousins, no neighbors, no expectations. I invited Sarah and Tom, our neighbors from down the street, and Lisa, my coworker, who'd always been there for me. Gregory grilled burgers in the backyard while Nathan set up a playlist, mostly his favorite indie bands. I made a simple spread, grilled vegetables, a fruit salad, and brownies from a mix. No gluten-free specials, no sugar-free cakes, just food we enjoyed. We sat around a folding table under the patio lights, laughing over stories. Sarah teased Gregory about his grilling skills, and Tom shared a terrible dad joke that had Nathan groaning. Lisa raised her glass, saying, "To Kathy, who deserves a night like this." I smiled, warmth spreading through me. This wasn't the chaotic, high-stakes dinner I'd slaved over for my sister. It was easy, real, and full of people who valued me. Nathan leaned over, whispering, "This is way better than their parties." "Mom?" Gregory squeezed my hand under the table, his eyes saying everything. As we cleared the plates, my phone buzzed again. Patricia's name flashed, followed by a text. "Please, Kathy. We need you." I ignored it, stacking dishes with Lisa. Robert called twice more that week, leaving voicemails about how they couldn't pull off the anniversary without me. I didn't respond. Their words, controlling, bland, still stung, and I wasn't going to let them pull me back. Susan's downfall was their problem, not mine. I focused on my little circle, on the people who saw my worth. For once, I felt light, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. By the next month, their plans collapsed. My parents had tried to organize their 40th anniversary dinner themselves after I refused to help. Susan, still reeling from her financial scam, offered no support, leaving them to scramble alone. I heard about the disaster from my niece Claire, who called me the day after. Their house in suburban Minneapolis was a mess. Tables cluttered with half-eaten trays, dishes piled in the sink, and decorations sagging from hasty setup. They'd ordered catering, but the delivery was late and there wasn't enough food. Guests expecting the warm gatherings I used to host left early, mumbling excuses. Robert tried to lighten the mood with a speech, but it fell flat. Patricia, usually poised, snapped at a cousin for spilling wine. The night was a far cry from the cozy family dinner they'd begged me for. I wasn't there to witness it, and I didn't care to. I'd cut contact after their call, still stung by their accusations of being controlling and their dismissal of my cooking. But the fallout reached me anyway. 2 days later, I was scrolling through my phone during lunch when I saw Patricia's post on a family group page online. "Some people are too selfish to show up for family," she wrote, tagging me. "Katherine would rather abandon us than help celebrate our milestone." My chest tightened. Selfish. After years of planning their events, cooking their meals, cleaning their messes, I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold. The post had likes from Susan and a few distant relatives, each one a jab. Then I saw a comment from Claire, my niece. "Aunt Kathy doesn't owe anyone anything," she wrote. "She worked hard for years and you never appreciated her. Maybe look in the mirror." My eyes widened. Claire, barely 20, had always been quiet at family gatherings, but her words were fierce. Other comments followed, some cousins agreeing, others staying neutral, but Patricia didn't respond. I could imagine her fuming, scrolling through the thread. Susan stayed silent, probably too embarrassed by her own financial ruin to chime in. I wanted to thank Claire, but I held back. Engaging would only stir the pot, and I was done with their drama. I put my phone down and focused on my own life. That week, I was busy with work, helping Nathan with a school project and planning a hiking trip with Gregory. We'd been spending more time with our close circle, Sarah, Tom, and Lisa, from the small gathering I'd hosted. They didn't expect me to play the perfect host or beg for their approval. With them, I could just be me. One evening, Lisa invited us over for pizza, and we laughed over a board game until midnight. Nathan teased me about my terrible dice rolls, and Gregory winked, saying, "You're still the best at throwing parties." Their warmth reminded me what real connection felt like. Meanwhile, my parents kept texting. Robert sent a vague message about fixing things, and Patricia left a voicemail, her tone sharp. "You saw my post, I assume." "We're disappointed, Kathy." I didn't reply. Their failed party wasn't my fault, and their public attack only proved I'd made the right choice. Claire's defense stuck with me, though. I sent her a quick text, not about the post, just checking in about her college classes. She replied with a heart emoji and a note. "You're my favorite aunt." I smiled, tucking my phone away. That was enough. My days felt lighter without the family's demands. I started a new routine: morning walks with Gregory, volunteering at Nathan's school, catching up with Lisa over coffee. The group chat stayed quiet, and I didn't miss it. Patricia's post lingered in my mind, but I didn't check for updates. Let them stew in their mess. I was building something better, surrounded by people who saw my worth. Their anniversary flop was their own doing, and I wasn't going to clean it up. A few weeks later, I got an email from Susan. I was at my desk sorting through work files when her name popped up in my inbox. I hadn't heard from her since the fallout of her failed financial scheme, and I'd kept my distance from the family after their disastrous anniversary party. My finger hovered over the delete button, but I clicked open instead. Her message was short but heavy. "Kathy, I owe you an apology. I was jealous. Everyone always praised your thoughtfulness, your dinners, your care. I wanted to outshine you, and I was wrong." My jaw tightened. Susan admitting fault. It felt surreal, but her words didn't erase the sting of her past insults. I leaned back, staring at the screen. Her jealousy wasn't news. I'd felt it for years, but seeing it spelled out hit differently. I didn't reply. I wasn't ready to forgive. Not after she'd called my food bland and tried to take over with her grand plans. Instead, I closed my laptop and turned my focus to something that mattered. I'd been planning a charity event at the Minneapolis Community Center, a party for underprivileged kids. It wasn't about impressing anyone, just giving back. I'd spent weeks coordinating with volunteers, ordering supplies, and designing games to make the kids smile. The day of the event arrived and the community center buzzed with energy. I set up tables with bright tablecloths, loaded with cupcakes, fruit skewers, and sandwiches. Nathan helped blow up balloons, his grin wide as he tied them to chairs. Gregory hauled in a speaker system, joking, "You're outdoing yourself again, Kathy." My niece Claire showed up early, carrying a box of donated books. She'd reached out after defending me online, eager to help. "This is awesome, Aunt Kathy," she said, stacking books for the kids. Her enthusiasm warmed me. At 20, she was finding her voice, and I was glad to have her by my side. The kids arrived, their laughter filling the room. We played musical chairs, painted faces, and handed out goodie bags. Claire jumped in, leading a group in a scavenger hunt, her energy infectious. One little girl hugged me, saying, "This is the best party ever." I smiled, my heart full. This was why I did it, not for praise, but for moments like these. During a break, Claire pulled me aside. "You're the only adult I trust," she said, her voice steady. "The rest of the family, they don't get it." I squeezed her shoulder too, moved to speak. Her words meant more than Susan's apology ever could. After the event, I cleaned up with Nathan and Gregory, stacking chairs and sweeping glitter off the floor. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah, my neighbor who'd volunteered too. "You made those kids' day," she wrote. I smiled, tucking my phone away. Back home, I checked my email again. Susan's message still sat there unanswered. Part of me wondered if she meant it, but I wasn't ready to dive back into family drama. I'd built something better, connections with people like Claire, Sarah, and my little crew who valued me for me. My days stayed full. I helped Nathan with college applications, went on evening walks with Gregory, and met Lisa for coffee to plan a book club. Claire started texting me regularly, sharing updates about her classes and asking for advice. I loved her spark, her willingness to stand up for what was right. The family group chat remained silent, and I didn't miss it. Robert and Patricia hadn't reached out since their failed party, and I didn't expect them to. Susan's email was a crack in the wall, but it wasn't enough to pull me back. I was done carrying their weight. My life, my real life, was here, with the people who saw me clearly. By the next holiday, my family was unraveling. It was Thanksgiving, and I was setting the table for a quiet dinner with Gregory, Nathan, and Claire when my phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. I let the call go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. Patricia's voice was strained, almost desperate. "Kathy, we're in trouble. Please call us back." I set the phone down, my gut telling me this wasn't just about holiday plans. Later that evening, Robert called again. I answered, bracing myself. He admitted they were drowning in debt, $20,000 piled up from medical bills and bad investments. They'd been arguing nonstop, unable to pay it off. "We need your help," he said, his voice low. "Not just money, but to bring the family back together. You're the only one who can." Patricia chimed in, pleading, "We miss your dinners, Kathy. They kept us grounded." I clenched my jaw, their words stirring up old wounds. They hadn't cared about my dinners when they called me controlling or let Susan mock my cooking. I took a breath, my voice steady. "Ask the people who voted that day," I said, referring to their decision to push me out of family gatherings. "I'm not your fix for this." Patricia gasped, and Robert started to argue, saying, "We're family, Kathy." That was a mistake, but I wasn't swayed. I hung up my hands, trembling. Nathan looked up from the table, his eyes wide. "You okay, Mom?" he asked. I nodded, forcing a smile. Gregory squeezed my hand, his quiet support enough to keep me steady. The next morning, I got a text from Mark. He hadn't reached out since the birthday party where he stayed silent while our parents and Susan tore into me. "I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you," he wrote. "I was wrong. Can we talk?" I stared at the message, my chest tight. Mark's silence had hurt as much as the others' words. I'd counted on him, my brother, who always had my back, to say something, but he hadn't. I typed a reply, then deleted it. I wasn't ready to forgive, not when the betrayal still stung. I left his message unanswered, just like I had with Susan's email. Instead, I threw myself into my community work. I'd been organizing events at the Minneapolis Community Center building on the success of the kids' party. This time, I was planning a winter clothing drive for local families. Claire showed up to help sorting coats and scarves with me. "You're doing something real here," she said, stacking boxes. Her belief in me felt like a lifeline. We worked side by side, joking about her college dorm life while folding blankets. Sarah and Lisa pitched in too, dropping off donations and cracking jokes to keep the mood light. The drive was a success. Dozens of families got what they needed, and the center was filled with grateful faces. One woman hugged me, saying, "You're a blessing to this community." I smiled her words, warming me more than any family praise ever had. Back home, Gregory and Nathan helped me unpack leftover supplies, and we celebrated with takeout pizza. Claire joined us, laughing as Nathan tried to steal her slice. "You guys are my real family," she said, her eyes bright. I felt a pang of pride. She'd chosen me, not the chaos of Robert, Patricia, or Susan. My phone kept buzzing with messages from my parents. Robert sent a long text about their financial strain, begging me to reconsider. Patricia left another voicemail, her tone sharp. "You're tearing us apart, Kathy." I didn't respond. Their problems weren't mine to solve. I focused on my life, planning the next community event, helping Nathan with his college essays, and enjoying quiet evenings with Gregory. After everything that happened, I realized I no longer needed to seek their approval. The Minneapolis Community Center was alive with laughter as I hosted a birthday party for underprivileged kids. Gregory grilled hot dogs, Nathan led a piñata game, and Claire handed out colorful cupcakes. The kids' smiles lit up the room, their joy pure and unfiltered. This was my purpose now, creating moments that mattered, surrounded by people who valued me. My old family, Robert, Patricia, and Susan, faded into the background, their absence a relief. I'd heard through Claire that they were paying a price. Susan's so-called friends had ditched her after her financial flop, leaving her isolated. Robert and Patricia faced whispers from neighbors who called them ungrateful for pushing me away. Their social circles shrank, their reputation bruised by their own actions. I didn't gloat, but I felt no guilt either. They'd made their choices just as I'd made mine. After the party, I sat with Nathan and Claire cleaning up streamers. I looked at them, my heart full. "Don't let anyone dim your worth," I said, my voice firm. "Not family, not anyone." Nathan nodded, his eyes serious. Claire hugged me, whispering, "You've shown me that, Aunt Kathy." Gregory joined us, wrapping an arm around me, his pride clear. Sarah and Lisa stopped by, praising the event, their warmth a stark contrast to my parents' coldness. I'd cut off all contact with Robert, Patricia, and Susan. No more calls, no more texts. My phone was quiet, and I liked it that way. My life was full: community projects, dinners with friends, and moments with Gregory, Nathan, and Claire. I'd found a family that didn't demand my labor or question my value. For the first time, I was truly happy, rooted in a community that saw me for who I was.